This episode will have inappropriate language for some people, and some graphic content with violence as well as death. This may make certain people uncomfortable. Greetings, listeners. Welcome to Consulting Between Friends. I am your host, Michael Holmes Jr. A person who is a screenwriter has a lot to focus on in a production. They have to work with different individuals to complete the task. In this episode, I will be interviewing a screenwriter who has an abundance of experience in his craft. This person, by the name of Nurideen Debouse, is also an upcoming author. You will learn about how he has self-taught himself the art of writing a book. Nurideen has published a novel called Shadows of Virtue, and it is a crime thriller novel. The topic is the mind of an author who has a vivid imagination. We will return after a message from our sponsor. Everyone is always planning things, and advertising is needed to make it happen. So, if it's personal or business, let Pinpoint Designs and Images solve that problem. With Pinpoint Designs and Images LLC, you will receive quality work and professional service at a great price. The service that is offered: flyers, business cards, programs, invitations, photo books, ad booklets, and much more. Michael Holmes Jr., owner/principal designer of Pinpoint Designs and Images LLC. Contact me by email or social media. Email address is pinpointdesignsandImages@gmail.com, and Instagram Pinpoint Designs, and Facebook Pinpoint Designs and Images. We are back. Before the interview begins, I want to give you a background on Nurideen Debouse. Nurideen is an author and a screenwriter who is passionate in his craft. He is determined to achieve any of his goals. Nurideen was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. He attended college at Clark Atlanta, Georgia. He pursued his career in freelance screenwriting in Los Angeles and in New Orleans. As a screenwriter, he has 8 years of experience with numerous projects. Nurideen worked as a freelance screenwriter and created television scripts. He has also collaborated with other creative professionals as well. Some of his skills as a screenwriter are story development, screenplay structure, character creation, and story structure. Nurideen has self-taught himself the art of writing novels. His first work of art is a novel called Shadows of Virtue. The Shadows of Virtue is a crime thriller novel and was published on June 18, 2021. This novel can be purchased online and in bookstores. He has attended multiple film festivals, which has taught him how the film industry works. Some film festivals he has attended are Across the Globe, African International, Foreman Empire International, Screenfest, and Sunshine City. Nurideen has his own film company, and it is called Dark Shadows Films. He has created multiple films under his own company. Some of his films are The Cut, Status, Whitney, and Possession. Nuruddin will be releasing another book called Dragons of the Mountain. This book will be available late summer, release in August. My guest today is Nurideen Debouse. Now, welcome to Consulting Between Friends.
Thank you. Very happy to be here. I feel honored. Thank you.
You're welcome. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Feeling pretty good. Feeling excited. Ready to have this conversation, and in good spirits. In good spirits.
That is totally good. I'm glad you had a good day, and I had a good day as well. And I'm looking forward to this interview. I know we've been planning for a while, and I know this is going to be very interesting.
Oh, most definitely. I'm ready.
Okay, now we're about to start. Now, can you explain how you got started as a screenwriter and now an author?
Oh yeah, most definitely. So what happened was how I started. I actually started taking. I started um acting before I started doing like script writing and things like that or whatever. Um, I took a few acting classes and things like that or whatever with a few acting coaches here locally in the city, and got an agent. um, the way I got the agent was very surprising. I didn't know I was getting the agent, but I walked in with another prominent actor who was a friend of the family. And when the agent saw me, she wanted to sign me because she didn't have anyone that looked like me on her roster. Um, so I started doing auditions. I did Apple, Popeyes, The Game, the TV show, um, and just a few other things. I did some behind the scenes work and stuff like that here and there. Um, but it wasn't satisfying for me. Like I really, like I always try to tell people, I know people may think one way when they see me, or when they see the way I look, my height, and all that, different stuff or whatever. But I'm extremely shy. I don't like to be in front of the camera. Um, I don't like a lot of eyes on me. If that makes sense. And things of that nature. So, um, I kind of decided to back away from that and pick up my love for writing again, because writing is something that I've always done since I was about 10 years old. I remember my mom had this old Macintosh computer, and that's why I wrote my first horror short when I was 10. But of course, due to life circumstances and things like that, I kind of let it go. But I don't want to go on a whole tangent. So I kind of backed away, and I got really interested into script writing. So I didn't take any classes. I didn't go to school for it or anything like that. I started to, it's all self-taught. So I started watching video interviews and, different YouTube videos, and I would take like, some seminars and things like that, and just listen to the things that they say. I would write down notes, and I would just soak everything in like a sponge. And I just started writing, like my own things. And from there, I also got with a friend of mine by the name of Kimberly Mian, who has Mian J Productions, who her and I went to like acting classes together, and been learning each other for a long time. And we just we got together and started writing scripts. And from there, we started, producing some of our own things. We started shooting some of our own things. Also, uh, film festivals, um, freelance writing, selling off some of the scripts, that we had, and things like that. And even, after, like, even though the script writing was very satisfying for me, I just felt like I wanted something more, So um I sat down one day. I remember I wrote this. Shadows actually started off as a episodic pilot for a series, and but after I had, I wrote it, I just didn't want to. I don't know. It was something in me, I didn't want to um give it to anybody. I didn't want nobody to see it. I didn't want people to read it. None of, anything like that or whatever. So I kind of like took it. I put it away, and that was that. And I remember, God rest my mom's soul, before she passed away in 2019. We spoke about it, and after I gave her a few of the details about it, what it was about, whatever, whatever, she was like, I really think that, it would be a good book. And then we started talking about, as a child, how I would write long stories and, X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 whatever, whatever. And I didn't, I don't know. It's just, so much was going on with everything else that I just, again, I left it on the shelf, and, I just put it away. And it wasn't until my mom passed away in 2019, in August 31st of 2019. And I went into like this real dark place, And I don't know. One day I remember being at home, and I was going through some old things, and Shadows, the script just popped, like it almost like it popped out of the box at me. And I sat down and I thought about it. I said, you know what? I said, I'm gonna do what my mom, what we talked about. I need to just sit down and because I've always wanted to write a novel. It was one of the like my one of the um things that I had a passion for, that I've always wanted to do, but I just never had the time to sit down and do it. So I, took some time off. Then boom, here comes the pandemic. So everything is kind of like started to shut down. So I just sat down and, went through everything, and I just started writing. And I changed that script because, of course, script writing and, writing a novel are two completely different things. So I had to go back to the lab and learn a whole bunch of things all over again. Um, there was so much detail and so much more storytelling and world building that I had to put into the book. Um, because again, you get a script, you write some dialogue, you write a few direction lines. He put the cup down on the counter, and then they have so it's like, it's script writing to me is so much easier than actual writing a manuscript for an actual novel. Um, because you have to have such a large and huge um imagination to even see a lot of these things happening as you are writing them. You know, so. And that's that. After that, um, that was it. I had the manuscript. I sent it off to have some editing done. But even after that, after the editing and everything, there were still mistakes. There's still things I had to go back to do. Do. I remember when I got the first copies in, like the words were like all crisscrossed all over the place. The numbers were actually inside, in the middle of the pages where the binding is, and it was so much. Oh my god, it was I was like, oh my god, what happened? This person was supposed to edit this for me. I paid them. It's so wrong. Like, this is not right, blah blah, blah, whatever. And it was man, it was a ride. It was getting to this point where I am now, it was a ride. But it was worth it though. It was. It was worth it. It was.
Well, I'm glad it was worth it. And I like how you spun your story, how you became a screenwriter in your career so far, and now author. You have learned a lot from where you're at right now, and that what matters the most.
Yes, absolutely. That is so true. It's the sometimes it's not about getting there. It's the journey, you know, that took you
Yes.
um or the journey you had to take to get to the point where you are now, you know? So
Mhm.
that's what matters to me, you know. I'm thankful. I'm grateful. I am.
What idea came to mind when you were creating the Shadows of Virtues book?
When I was a teenager, there was a movie titled Seven. It was with Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt. It was like a police procedural serial killer type. And that was the first idea that came to mind because it was one of my favorites growing up, you know?
Mhm.
And I always want, like, again, as a teenager, even coming into adulthood, I always wished that they would make a part two. And I was like, man, I wish they would make a part two. It was so good. We don't know what happened after, what happened to the killer, blah, blah, whatever, whatever. So I thought to myself, I said, well, what if I take that idea, or that inspiration, so to say, and create something of my own, from that? And I can actually create not only book one, which is Shadows of Virtue. I can do
Mhm.
book two, which is going to be Shadows of Sin, and then also book three, which is going to be just Shadows. So yeah, pretty much, the movie Seven was the biggest inspiration that I had in writing Shadows of Virtue.
So basically, when you saw the movie Seven, that was your way of saying, okay, I like what they have in this movie, and I'm going to go ahead and write a book on my own version of what I see.
Yes, correct. I was a huge, huge fan of the movie. Um, like a huge fan of the movie, and I was just so fascinated by it. It was the storyline was very interesting to me, and again, like I said, I just I stayed a fan, and I always wondered, like, wow, I wonder, would they do a two or a sequel, blah blah blah, whatever, whatever. It never came, so I was like, you know what, I'm going to create my own version, and just I went from there.
Well, I like how you just explained that, and that does make a lot of sense. You was a big fan of the movie, and you say, "Oh, I need to start something on my own." So I'm glad you decided to go ahead and write a book that you wanted to really do.
Yeah, it was, and I'm excited about it. I am, really am.
The detective James Debouse in the book, what you want the reader to pay attention to.
Most of all, his transition. James is a one of those does everything by the book detectives. He wants to make sure that he's doing everything in the right way,
Mhm.
even when it pertains to catching a bad guy, no matter how bad that person may be. And there is a character arc or transition, so to speak, that kind of turns him into this. Well, if I can't do it the way that I
Mhm.
normally do, then I guess I have to become that person of, if I, like the old saying goes, if you want to catch a criminal, you have to think like one.
Yes.
And that's, well, one of the things that I want people to pay most attention to, which is his arc, and just the all the trauma that he's dealing with at the time. The trauma of
Mhm.
case that he had to deal with 7 years ago, previously, with Michael Watts. His mom is sick. She has cancer. He's trying to deal with the anxieties and these physical scars that he has, again, from
Mhm.
the past, and now having to deal with the same thing, so to speak,
Mhm.
all over again. And you see him kind of spiral into this, hurricane of emotions, trying to figure out what is the best way to go about catching this guy without causing harm to anyone else. So, just most important, like I say, most importantly, just his transition and his mind, his way of thinking, and how that begins, and then how it
Hmm.
transforms into something completely different afterwards.
So basically, when somebody's actually reading this book here, had to pay closely to the detective.
Correct. So the story is actually in first person. So it's from the mind, eyes, and lips of Detective James Debouse. Um,
Hmm.
it's what he's seeing, what he's going through, what he's dealing with. Just the things the things that everyone is telling him. Again, the emotions that he's feeling, the thoughts of the past, trying to reconcile things with himself and with everyone around him. Just trying to not please everyone,
Hmm.
so to speak, rather trying to figure out how to keep everyone safe and protected while still dealing with his own traumas.
Okay, that makes sense. So everybody pay closely attention to the detective when reading this book.
Yes, precisely. I mean, they kind of won't have a choice. You know what I mean? Because it's in first person. So,
Yes.
yeah, but just pay attention to his overall transition. That's it. It's a really it's one of those things that spoke to me after I was done writing it. It's like holding on to past trauma can continue to
Hmm.
cut deep, even if we don't think that it can. So it's like
Yes.
moving forward in a new way is always best, not just for the healing purpose, but also for future purposes to kind
Yes.
of help you stay grounded.
Hmm. That is important. You have to stay grounded. And in trauma, you have to really focus on what's going on in your mind because it can take over you eventually.
Yes, so true. Yep. And you'll see that happening to him a lot throughout the entire book.
The Shadows of Virtue book has a lot of situations that people can relate to. What are you hoping the reader will learn from the book?
So so what I want people to like to get from this, again, it's like trauma, right? We
Hmm.
all deal with them. Some of our traumas, of course, are much on a much larger scale than others.
Hmm.
But it's like the old saying, when you have when people, that's something that you need to and should let go of because it's doing more harm. While you're doing more harm to yourself holding on to it than you are letting go. It's
Hmm.
like the scenario when the rope is around the wrist and it's real tight and it's cutting off the blood circulation. And the reason why it's able to do so is because you're still holding on to it. But once you let that rope
Yes.
go, that blood starts to circulate through you freely, and you don't have to worry about that pressure anymore. So it's like that with trauma at times. Trauma, of course, can be difficult to deal with, and sometimes even in some cases difficult to let go. But sometimes, in a weird way, we should, because it may make our lives so much easier.
Hmm.
And it's just like in a story with James, there's so much trauma that he's dealing with. Again, from from the past. There's again physical scars that he have. his mom is sick. He's still traumatized from when his dad passed away. He has a new love interest. He's still traumatized from an ex who left him, you know, 6, 7 years ago. And all these things are affecting him in his now current life. And he's not able to be successful in any of those things, including his career as a detective,
Mm-hmm.
because he's holding on to these traumas. So sometimes it's better to let go and move forward and be happy than to hold on and continue to allow that to cut you, so to say, and keep you in a miserable state of mind.
Yes, I agree with that. Trauma is something you can't go ahead and let take over your life because it can stop you and you might not move forward. So you have to know how to deal with trauma and bad situations in life. And it seems like through this book, he's going to realize he has a lot of trauma, but he's going to know how to learn how to deal with it, correct?
Right, correct. Yes. Um, yeah, that's it. He it's a lesson learned for him, you know, because as much as he doesn't want to allow these things to affect him, they are. And
Mm-hmm.
he learns from them. And they help to propel, letting go and pushing forward, um, helps him in a lot of different ways. So we see him start off in the beginning of the story as this scarred, know it all, want to be it all, to transitioning from that to this free understanding and just just this free understanding and new person, like, overall. you know the obsessions he used to have, he doesn't have them anymore. There's even in book, he has his pill obsession because these things that he's dealing with. So he's
Mm-hmm.
taking these medications excessively, more than he should, because of all this. And we see him, just beat it. A lot of the things in the story are personal, so to say. Some of the experiences that James has in the story are some of my own, in a way. Like, for instance, his mom. Some of the conversations that he actually has with his mom, while
Mm-hmm.
she's battling with cancer, is actual conversations that I had with my mom while she was battling cancer.
Mm.
So
Interesting.
yeah, so yeah, he it's like a phoenix rising from the ashes. You know, it is.
So this book that you actually wrote is also have some personal things that you have went through in your life a little bit. Plus also it has a lot of meaning to it to you as well.
Yes, most definitely, it does. It does. And this was a again, um, after, like, 2019, because it wasn't just my mom. Like, my uncle passed that year, then my dad passed, then my mom passed, and then my best friend of, like, 19 years passed away. So they were all, like,
Mm-hmm.
back to back to back to back. So
Mm-hmm.
writing this book was, sort of say, almost like therapy for me.
Yes.
Um, and it helped me come out of the shadows, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Um,
Uh-huh.
to do this. But yeah, this it was real personal and also therapeutic at the same time, and um, helped me heal in a lot of ways, different ways.
Well, that's good that this book actually healed you for what you was dealing with, and it allowed you to go ahead and write down your thoughts, and also the way how you might write this book. You might also be helping other people who might be going through different traumas and situations.
Yes, correct. And that's what I hope it does. I hope that others who may deal with trauma and even in some cases depression, um,
Hmm.
in a way uh, that this story in a way can help them move forward. Um, to help them see that, hey man, like it's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Um,
Yes.
there was always something better on the other side. We can choose to, and we have the choice and the the willpower to make ourselves and our lives better. Um,
Hmm.
no matter how much people may try to help us do those things, that's just it's you know it, only we can do that. Only we can help ourselves rise from the ashes.
Yes, that is true. We only can help our own selves. Sometimes other people can help us, but sometimes we gotta help ourselves first.
Oh yeah, I kind of see it, you know, as no matter how much, let's say for instance, no matter how much someone tries to help you, no matter how much someone tries
Hmm.
to push you, no matter how sometimes how much someone tries to love you, um,
Hmm.
if you aren't willing to accept those things and feel that you are worthy of those things, no matter what anybody does, it just won't work. Like
Correct.
it's not gonna work. So that's why I kind of say, so to speak, it's really up. At the end of the day, it's really up to us. Because
Hmm.
again, if we're not whole within ourselves, then there's nothing someone else can do on the outside to complete that
Hmm. That is true.
or to
I
complete
totally agree
us.
with that.
Yeah.
Hmm. How did you come up with the concept of Shadows of Virtue book?
Uh, the concept. Um, the concept came from the movie Seven. I was inspired to write it from the movie Seven. I don't know if a lot of people, saw Seven. It was Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt. It was a movie about a serial killer who killed his victims based on the seven deadly sins. Each person being killed for their most their most the sin they're most indulged in. Um,
Hmm.
and again, I was a big fan of this movie growing up, and it was one of those movies that I always wish, man, I hope they should make a part. They should make a part two, or they should make a sequel, make a TV show, or something like that. Blah blah whatever, whatever. And that's initially the reason why I wrote it as a script, because I was like, man, if I can not recreate something like that, because again, that was like a masterpiece to me. But if I can
Hmm.
be inspired to write something that's kind of sort of like it in a way, so to speak, I was, again, super extremely happy about it. And I initially wrote it as so initially it was going to be um seven serial killers killing, people based upon, I don't want to, really give it away, but
Hmm.
it's just like a cult of seven deadly serial killers. And the script was a little bit different than what the book is. So when I decided to turn it into a book, of course there was so much more that I can add to it. So I added again so
Of
much world
course.
building, so much storytelling, more characters, much more deaths that are much more gruesome and
Mm-hmm.
egregious, so to speak, very sinful in a way,
Mm-hmm.
that is explained in pure detail enough to make you, like some of the murders are like horrifying. Like they are. Sometimes I question myself, like, man, how the hell did you even think of something like that? Like, really? Like, man, like it was one of those things where I would like, have to look at myself in the mirror, like, oh, are you sure you all the way, like your mind is good, huh? Like, yeah, I'm good. Um, because the again, the murders were so like freaking like bad. Um, but yeah, and like I said, when I finished writing it as a episodic script, I was extremely satisfied with it, but didn't want to give it to anybody. Didn't want to sell it off. Didn't want to do any of that. So I said, you know what, put it on the back shelf. And again, I just, after speaking with my mom, I decided to turn it into a book. Well, after she passed away, and but the movie Seven, and the movie Seven, and also Zodiac was matter of fact, two huge inspirations and two, things that inspired me to write this.
So basically, when you was writing this book, it's very graphic, and you can actually start picturing what's going on. Correct?
Hmm. Yeah, you can. Like, I don't know if you want me to like kind of explain one scene to you. If you want me to, like, I can.
You can explain one scene if you want. Don't worry, you can explain one scene.
So there is this scene where James, his partner Roy, and their partner Susan, um, go to this old abandoned home in the Seven Ward of New Orleans, and when they get to this, not necessarily a basement, because in New Orleans we have these homes that like have 16 stairs you have to go up before you can go in through the front
Mm-hmm.
door. So we call a basement like pretty much what is the the lower level, which is the garage. And they go into this area, and there's just this extremely rancid smell when they get down there. And it's so bad that they almost have to go back up the stairs, and just call someone. But they, of course, they buck up and they head down there, and they're talking and having conversation with each other. And I believe it was Roy flashed his flashlight at the corner of a dark corner of the room, and Susan just loses it at that point, and James kind of turns his head, and he sees this woman's body nailed to the wall by railroad spikes, and her head is removed from her neck. And
Oh no.
this guy literally split from the base of her neck down to her abdomen, and they can see her organs just spilling out onto this into this crimson pool on the floor. And they can tell that the body has been there for a long time because there's maggots squirming and burrowing themselves inside of her flesh. So yes.
Yeah, this is graphic. Yeah, yeah. You have a big imagination. You have a big imagination.
Yeah.
But that's some good writing. If you thought of that, that's really some good writing. If you look at it, that's some good writing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like I said, I had to question myself a few times after
Mhm.
writing.
Well, this is going to lead me to the next question because I remember you keep saying about sins. You're repeating sins a lot, and I see this throughout the book. So this is going to lead to the next question. In the book, you mentioned the 7 deadly sins. What are your intentions the reader understand the most from the book?
So there's this quote that the killer always says on some of the notes that he leaves behind on some of the bodies. And it says, and I quote, "We are virtuous in the light, but we thrive off sin in the shadows of virtue." So a lot of people know about the 7 deadly sins, but no one actually references ever. I never personally hear anyone reference the 7 holy virtues, which
Mm-hmm.
is, chastity, temperance, kindness, and all those, different things, which are the opposite. So the shadows of virtues are literally the 7 deadly sins. That's the
Mm-hmm.
shadows. As above, so below. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, um, again, that's one of the things where, we have these people who, um, and I'm pretty sure people will believe that, the book is, um, that the murders have something to do with sin, but people will be extremely surprised to see, like, I don't want to give anything away, so I'm trying to figure out how to word it without
Mm-hmm.
giving anything away. um that it has a lot to do with both, you know um
Mm-hmm.
in every saint there's a sinner, so to speak, right?
Yes.
um
Mm-hmm.
there are things that people will do um in the light of the world, but we don't know the darkness that they either deal with, or the things that they do, so to speak, right?
Yes.
That's
That's
why
true.
sometimes, even with people, you always hear people say things like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that he did something like that. I would have never thought like he would do something like that." But
Mm-hmm.
again, in every saint, there's a sinner,
That is
right?
true.
So, um, I can't say much because I'm gonna give it away. I can't say much. I'm gonna give it. So I'm gonna just leave it at that. In every saint, there's a sinner. We're gonna leave it at that. Mhm.
As a writer, what are the intents you are hoping to achieve as an author?
Oh, that's a damn good. I'm sorry, I didn't want to curse, but that's a damn
It's
good
it's, it's
question.
okay.
Uh, that's a damn good question. To be honest, what I am trying to achieve as an author is to be remembered as an amazing storyteller. And that's it. I want people to hear my name and say, wow, that guy writes some amazing stories. Like, I want to be able to send my readers on a journey to a
Mm-hmm.
completely different place they've never been to mentally, in their imagination. I want people to be
Mm-hmm.
able to imagine things again and to use their imaginations just as we did as children, right? That's this
Yes.
quote that
Mm-hmm.
says that the creative adult is the child that survived, meaning, of course, every one of us who have, these creative talents, these creative gifts, and this imagination to get these things done, we're just in tune with our inner child. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Because children are some of the big, um, they're so imaginative when it comes to things, uh, that it's insane, you know? So I want to take people on a journey, whether it's one that will horrify them, whether it's one that is going to heal them, um, whether it's one that's going to make them feel love, happiness. all the good things and even some of the bad things. But overall, to tell a damn good story, that people won't forget, something that they will always, always remember forever. I don't really care too much about, fame or anything like that. Really, I had this huge fear of fame. Like I don't,
Hmm.
I really don't want it. Um, I just want to create stories that people enjoy. That's it. At the end of the day, that's all I care about. That's all I'm worried about. All the other things like acolytes and all that kind of different stuff, awards, I don't care about none of that stuff. If at the end of the day, people enjoy something that I create, that is so satisfying enough for me. All of the other, like I say, all the other things I don't care about. It's just the people, um, the individuals that become fans of your work.
Hmm.
I want to give them things that they will enjoy, and like I say, can take them, on journey to different places, and give them a little something to remember me by.
Well, I like how you just explained that, and that does make a lot of sense. Every author and everybody who's very creative wants to be remembered by people that likes their work.
Yes, absolutely. You want to, um, you do. You just want to create great things that people will love. And I
Hmm.
believe all creators have an understanding that not everybody's going to like whatever you do. Not everybody's going
Correct.
to love it. Stephen King is someone who inspired me greatly as a child. As a child, I would read so many of his novels, even like different things, Goosebumps, and even J.K. Rowling. Because I'm a big fantasy freak too. Because I have a huge love for fantasy as well. And some of the greatest minds in the world when it comes to writing and novels and things like that, you have people that don't like their work. you know so it's like you have this understanding that not everybody's going to like what you have or what you do, but if you can touch the minds and the hearts of a few, then that's enough. For me, that's enough.
And I agree with that. Since you basically, this is a different question. Since you basically mentioned the type of books you like, what type of books that you would really like to actually write? I know you mentioned like horror. I know you mentioned about stuff that's will have you thinking. So what you would actually like to write?
So I'm a for writing something like this, that's like a thriller slash romance, right, so to speak. That's all also like a police procedural. It was the first time that I've ever written something like this. Horror, fantasy, and a little bit of sci-fi. But for the most part, I don't want to keep myself in a box, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because I've had some vets, the veterans in the game is what they call them, tell me that, oh,
Yes.
you pick a genre and you write that, and you stick with that and you write. Oh, I don't. I mean, that may be an old way of thinking, but that's, you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean. Like, I don't want to put myself in a box. So if I can write horror, if I have something that's great, I'm gonna write it. If I have fantasy, again, I'm a geek. I'm a nerd. I love fantasy. I love world building, open worlds, and things like that. Hell, still to this, I watch. Fantasy is one of the genres that I watch the most. I
Mm-hmm.
watch anime, isekai anime, which is huge with fantasy and knights and gnomes and
Yes.
different type of
Mm-hmm.
beings and things like that. So if I can write a romance, I would do that. I would love. I'm a huge hopeless romantic. I love that. You know what I mean? Like if I can do that, I would as well. So I really don't necessarily want to put myself in a box. if it comes to me, I'll write it, even if it's just once. I kind
Mm-hmm.
of really do. I kind of want to try, everything once, and just go from there. Now I'm now except maybe like erotica. I don't think I can. I don't think I can write. Now there is a little bit of that in the book as well,
Uh-huh.
but to write an entire novel based around that,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I can do that. Well, I'm not gonna say I can't. Let me not say that because I never tell myself I can't do something, and I advise everyone listening to never tell yourself or never say to yourself you can't do something. But I would just prefer not to, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So basically, you're open to try different things, which is a really good thing.
Yep, correct. If a great story comes to me, whatever genre it may be, then I'm willing to try it. To put my hands in it. And again, if I try it and people like it, they like it. If I try it and they don't, hey, they don't. It's okay. I don't mind.
Mm-hmm. As a screenwriter, what skills have you learned that transform your career?
Mm. What skills have I learned to transform my career? Formatting is one of the biggest, and most strenuous things that I've learned that help me do more, move forward, and have more success with it. To learn how to properly format a script. Um, I I still have now in my in a binder the first script that I ever wrote, which was called The Cut.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having someone sit down with me and showing me the proper way to structure a script in a way for shooting, because
Yes.
there's a shooting script, of course, and there's a script that the actors and again, yeah, everyone has someone that's a little bit different for their job
Mm-hmm.
title, um,
Yes.
you know, and that was one of the biggest things that I learned that helped me again push forward and just become better. Just learning how to structure the script properly, how to change scenes properly, or how to write set up the dialogue properly, how to put in there for a shooting script the shots, the pauses, stops, the move, the camera angles, all these different things. That's just learning how to structure an actual script in its entirety is something that really, really, really um, helped me out a lot. Within my career, a lot. I mean, when I say a lot, and it does matter. It does.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Structure
You
matters
know.
in everything.
hmm Absolutely, it does. Again, because especially if you want to do like some freelance writing, and you want to pitch that script, or you want to send it off to a producer or someone to read it, or when you're trying to sell it or something, you want it to be presentable. You want it to be as close to a Hollywood screenwriter as you want. You want it to be as close to a Hollywood screenwriter as you possibly can. Otherwise, I mean, you may be in a position where you might have something good, but when they see it and it's type the structure that it's in, they might say, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He may not, why would I even waste my time, reading. I've seen things like that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and even heard about it, waste my time, and they toss it and throw away and don't even realize that, it's a good script, but it just wasn't structured properly, so they, you know, didn't even bother to look.
Yes, indeed. Now, that's really interesting.
Oh, man, I have some stories. Let me tell you.
When we were speaking earlier before the interview, I realized you mentioning that you went to a few film festivals. So, can you list some of the film festivals you actually attended and what you have learned from it?
Oh yeah, film festivals are a great way. for new filmmakers to start for new filmmakers to start off and have your film or script put in front of an audience of people that can either potentially produce your film, again, buy the script, pick the script, pick it up, whatever, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
IMMM Screenfest, which is horror. I did Foreman Empire Productions International Film Festival. I did an African, Nigerian Film Festival across the globe, International Film Festival, New Orleans Film Festival, just a few different ones. And again, what I learned from that is that you go to these different festivals and you get to network with people. You hope when you submit your film or script, it's of course picked up because there are thousands and thousands upon submissions that are put in every year for these festivals. So of course, if you're lucky
Mm-hmm.
to be chosen, you definitely might want to go. But again, it helped me network with a lot of people. It helped me meet a lot of people. It helped me learn how to, I guess, structure my own films in a way, because I've shot of course a few of my own films aside from working with other people, companies, and it's a great experience. Again, for a screenwriter, an actor,
Mm-hmm.
someone who's starting off as a producer, a DP, maybe, all sort of different things in the you know in the filmmaking world, so to speak. And there's always like some of the biggest films that come out every year. People wouldn't even believe that a lot of those films actually started off in film festivals. There's a lot of different films that start off in film festivals that actually get picked up by other companies like Fox, 21st Century, Paramount, all these Universal and all these big wigs that actually has
Mm-hmm.
representatives that go to these festivals that watches these films, or again, like say if you're in a screenwriting competition or a festival, that's in some of these festivals there's where you can actually submit a copy of your your screenplay or something like that or whatever, and with hopes to get it again picked up or work with someone, so to speak. So I think film festivals are a great way for a lot of newcomers, who start off, whether it's again script writing or whether it's in producing your own work, and many other things. Film festivals can be a huge opportunity maker for newcomers.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Film festivals are really good. I actually like watching some film festivals that be on TV. And you're right, a lot of movies that you actually see is really started from the film festival.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a lot. Like, I mean, some of the just there's a lot. There's a ton of them. I mean, majority of the all the original films that come out, not all the remakes, but a majority of all the original films that you see coming out in the past
Uh-huh.
years, they started off in film festivals, and someone saw it, and Universal said, you know what, I want that. And they pick it up and they if you again, because you shoot it yourself, and they will pick it up, do some rewrites when it comes to the script, and they will reshoot it, and it will either keep the same name,
Mm-hmm.
or it will go by an alternative name. And of course they won't. I'm not saying they'll like steal the film or nothing. For people that's listening, no, they'll go to the person who made the film, wrote the film, directed, blah blah, whatever, and pick that up. Either buy it. They'll either buy it from you,
Mm-hmm.
or may work something out with you, and you might get a executive producer. executive producer credit, also a big bankroll in your pocket. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know what you mean. And that's something to shoot for.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
What made you decide to become an author? Also, what mind frame were you in when writing your first book?
So what made me want to become an author is I found myself a lot of times writing scripts. Let's say, for instance, right now on hand, I have like 25 full lit features, some two out of that episodic pilots, and maybe six out of that are concepts or short treatments that I wrote for future projects that I
Mm-hmm.
want to do. But right now, just that on hand is like 25. Now, seven of those I pulled for myself because I said I want to turn them into novels, like
Mm-hmm.
Internal, which is something that I wrote. The Gownsman is something else that I wrote. That's extremely original. The Book of Believe, Caleb's Big Adventure, which is like a fantasy. It won't necessarily be a children's book, but the main character in the book will be a little boy that's like 10 years old. I was inspired to write that. But my son inspired me to write something like that. What else? And just, being again, script writing, you can only give so much detail because you have to allow the actors to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, like I mentioned earlier, oh, Samantha set the cup on the kitchen counter and walked over to Adam sitting at the kitchen table. That's pretty much it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But writing a novel, I can say Amanda felt terrified as her eyes widened as she looked at the TV screen. She set the cup on the kitchen counter and immediately walked over with hurried footsteps to Sam, who was sitting at the kitchen table, shivering or with trembling hands. So you know what I mean? It's in so
Yes.
much more
Uh-huh.
detail that I can go into without being restricted. So and that's what kind of made me want to do that. And again, also is because I had a love for writing stories that had that much detail as a child, and I read a lot of books as a child. That was one of my things that I love to do. Man, I did. I love to, I love to read, and a passion for reading as a child turned into, wow, I would love to create stories like this so that I can make other kids feel the excitement that I'm feeling right now. And it's still something that transitioned into adulthood, and being able to tell a story completely
Mm-hmm.
in full detail without having to remove anything, where you can have a 350-page manuscript of, again, full on story and world building, character building, and all these different things. And you don't have to say, oh, well, if it's more than 120 pages, it's longer than a 2-hour movie, So,
Mm-hmm.
when you're script writing, you're counting pages, so to speak, because of course, unless it's a action movie like a Marvel movie, who's gonna really sit down and watch a horror movie or a fantasy, like or some fantasy. Well, fantasy more so to speak, they probably would, like Lord of the Rings, which is one of my favorites. Like, I sat down and watched all three, and they were all 3 hours. The Hobbit,
Yes.
same thing. Um, but let's say for instance, horror, thriller, drama, romance. Who's really going to sit down and watch a 3 hour drama or a 3 hour horror? 3 hour. You know what I mean? That's why they break TV
Mm-hmm.
shows up into what it used to be 30-minute segments. Well, 25 really, and then you had 5 minutes of commercials.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then they made it a little longer now, so it's like in like 45 minutes, or if you're watching the streaming service, and of course if you're watching a
Mm-hmm.
television station, it's an hour but 45 minutes and 15 minutes of commercials.
Yes.
So you can just do so much more as far as a book or a novel, so to speak, than you can with an actual script.
That makes a lot of sense. And then also you realize that you had a passion for it, and you also realize you had a talent for it. So you say, I'm just gonna go through. You realize you had a passion for it, and you realize you had the talent for it. So you told yourself, I'm gonna go ahead and write this book that I have in my mind.
Oh yeah, like even like I remember being a child and like going insane because like I would think about so much and I can like see vividly the things that I thought about and the things that I would write down. And even now as an adult, like I still find myself doing that a lot. Like I literally, if I wanted to think about a scene. I'm on a lake and there's a cottage behind me. The grass is emerald green. The trees are tall, oak trees. It's in the fall time. The leaves are turning reddish or reddish brown. The sun is setting behind me. The sky is this purplish blue. Like my mind is so
Mm-hmm.
I can think so vivid at all times, and like my imagination is off the chain. Sometimes I have to sit down and tell myself to shut the hell up because I'm thinking about too much at once, like
Uh-huh.
I
Yes.
like I have to tell myself to shut that, like just to hold on, bro, just relax. Like, what are you doing? Like you're thinking too much. And it's
Mm-hmm.
constantly like moving with new ideas, new stories, new, it's so much. And I don't know, like I've been like that since a child and it's never left. I mean, I'm thankful, they say when God gives you a talent, use it, because if you don't, he will reassign it to someone else, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I just told myself, you know what, let me use this talent because I I'm not trying to have mine reassigned to nobody but myself. Now, if there
Yes.
comes a time where I can help someone to, forge theirs and improve theirs, then of course. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm not willing to give my talent for nobody. So yeah. But I think a lot. Like you know, it's like I said, it's always been a passion of mine. And it started from being able to read and vividly imagine things, transitioning into being able to write and also vividly imagine things while I do that. So, yeah.
Well, I totally understand that. Can you tell me about your creative process?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes to be honest with you, I don't have to prep because the stories and the imagination are sometimes like it's always there. Like I'm always thinking about things, and my dreams are so vivid. Like like I always talk to my friends about the type of dreams that I have, and you know how vivid they are, and you know it's so weird. But sometimes I do have to prep, and if I do, because I don't know, like my mood is not where it needs to be or where it's supposed to be or things like that, I will actually go sit at the lakefront, and sit by the water. Water is my like it's serenity for me. Whether again
Mm-hmm.
it's a river, it's a lake, it's a beach, it's the ocean. Water is serenity for me. So sometimes just go and sit by a body of water and listen to the waves and feel the wind. That's enough to get me started. That's the process. And after that, once I'm going, I take my notepad and I start just writing different things down, and I'm just letting it flow. And I'm letting it all come to me at one time, instead of it all being scrambled up into different things. And You know, write down some notes. I go over them, read them out loud to myself, and boom, just start. But I'm not gonna lie, I don't have a hard time prepping majority of the time. So that's why it's kind of hard for me like to think of something like the process or like a startup because I mean
Mhm.
I'm it's just always there. Like my brain is just always on that. I don't know. It's weird. It's super weird.
Well, that's a good thing that your brain is able to be at that mode for you can actually start writing.
Mm, yeah, it is because I hear about right, and I'm not gonna. I've had writer's block maybe like once or twice, and it is not a good thing to have. It sucks when you have all the ideas in your head and everything that you want to do in your head, but you can't get it out.
Hmm.
And and even when there's no ideas there, like when there's nothing, and you can't think
Hmm.
about anything, and it's just blank. That's the worst. I've had that happen to me once or twice, but yeah, that's the worst.
Well, we came to the end of this interview. And before we go today, I would like you to say how can people follow you and get more information about you as an author?
Okay, so what they can do is they can go to nurideen.com. That's NurideenDebouse.com. They can also look me up on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, um, and things like that or whatever. That's where they can go to find out a little bit more about my me.
Okay, and then also since you wrote this book that we were talking about today, where can somebody actually purchase this book at?
Okay, so paperback, hardcover, Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, ebook, and EPUB, um, Amazon, of course, which is Kindle, Apple, and Google apps. Google, bookstore, Apple bookstore, Google bookstore.
Yes. Well, everyone, now you know the information about the Book of Shadows. I hope everyone get their own copy of this book because of me doing this interview. I realize this is really interesting. I enjoy interviewing Nurideen today for Consulting Between Friends podcast.
Oh, and one other thing, I just want to say thank you, man, for bringing me on. Like, I really appreciate it to be able to sit and talk and like have this conversation. I know we're laughing about a few days ago saying how natural, things flow when we talk and we speak to each other. And this was
Correct.
pretty cool, man. I'm grateful. I'm thankful. I hope to come on again one day. This is cool. I really enjoyed myself and had a great time. And thank you for helping me to feel comfortable to be able to speak because I'm a huge introvert. I'm extremely shy and I don't like to talk sometimes because I talk over myself. But thank you,
Mhm.
man. I really enjoyed it. This was awesome.
Well, I enjoy interviewing you as well. I'm glad I was able to make you comfortable doing this interview, and I'm glad that you enjoy being here as well.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm grateful. Forever grateful.
After a short break, we will return. We are back. In closing, I hope everyone has enjoyed the interview with Nurideen Debouse. The way he described himself as a screenwriter and an author. With his knowledge and experience as a screenwriter, listeners have learned how the industry works. As an author, giving wisdom for future authors and writers as well. I have learned a lot about him and his career that I truly appreciate the opportunity to interview. So, everyone, I hope you can support his current and future projects. One last thing, remember to support Black business owners, and reading books can offer a world to explore that can lead to future opportunities. What's going on in the news? The Supreme Court has made a draft to overturn Roe v. Wade, which is the abortion rights law. This law was created and support women's rights to having an abortion. The Supreme Court has caused an uproar among people who support Roe v. Wade law. If Roe v. Wade overturns, women will not be supported if they choose to have an abortion. This will hurt some women and the poor more, since this group mostly don't have health insurance or the funding to travel to locations that offer abortions. Which means the southern states like Louisiana and Mississippi will ban and charge fines if abortion takes place after new laws. Some women has unwanted pregnancies from men who has raped them and violated their rights as a woman. This is why some women have abortions. I believe women should have this right to have an abortion. Women should have the right to protect themselves from unwanted pregnancies. At the end of the day, women only know how their bodies feel when they are violated. You can click the links about Roe versus Wade on abortion in the podcast notes under What's Going On in the News. Thank you for listening to Consulting Between Friends. This podcast is available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts, as well other platforms that are available. So like and subscribe. Need to contact us and leave us a comment? You can find us on Instagram at Consulting the letter B Friends. Once again, Consulting B Friends. An email address is consulting the letter B friends at gmail.com. Once again, consulting B friends at gmail.com. Consulting Between Friends now has a way for listeners to share their feedback about the podcast. The listeners can now share their feedback on Discord. The link will be available in the podcast notes and on the podcast website. Consulting between friends. Thanks to everyone for making this possible. The host, Michael Holmes Jr., the producer and content creator, Michael Holmes Jr., the artwork cover, Michael Holmes Jr., original music, a DJ named Slash, special guest, Nurideen Debouse, screenwriter and author, content distributor, my producer, Podcasts.